Hey everybody, how you doing? I hope everyone had a great week. Happy Wednesday. We made it to yet another week. How's everything? So let's see who we have today. We have Mr. Patrick all the way from Massachusetts. How are you today? Yes, such a sad loss. Very true. So sad about Sinead, you know? It's horrible. And we have Mr. Color Graphics Roy all the way from Jersey. How are you, sir? And we have Colette all the way from Wisconsin. Great to see you as well. Great to see Roy and Patrick and Colette. You guys are great. Yeah, I think it was around 4 o'clock I heard about what happened with Sinead O'Connor. Fact about Sinead O'Connor, she was born the very next day that I was born. So she was born on December 8th, 1966. I was born December 7th, 1966. So I'm 1 day older than her. But I remember the day that song came out, you know, Nothing Compares to You. And it was like one of those songs like Smells Like Teen Spirit in the 90s, in the early 90s, that kind of changed everything. Kind of a song that kind of reverberated through the whole industry and maybe even the whole culture. It was that much of a big hit. Just a real paradigm shift in the music industry. So she was amazing and just a trailblazer. So let's see who we have. We have Patty. How are you all the way from Illinois? How's everything? We have Mr. Dwayne Marshall. How are you today? Go Mustangs, not banana slugs. And we have Michael McClung all the way from the Maryland, Baltimore area. Great to see you. Air Todd from San Diego. A shot of inspiration. How are you today? Could you remind me, a shot of inspiration, where are you from? I always like to give shout outs to where people are to take time out to hang out with little old me. Thank you, that was great. Todd said nothing compares to you, Tim. I appreciate that, Todd. You're great. Always amazing to see you, my friend. And so far, what a great group we have today. So this is going to be using the Wicked line, right? But right now we're not going in with color just yet because I like using my Airbrush India ink as an underpainting. So we're going to go over the later stages of my underpainting. And let's see who else. Wendy, how are you? That's an amazing portrait of those two crows that you did. Just fantastic. That was really nice. So great group thus far. Then, being of Irish descent and having family over in Ireland and, like something like 94% Irish, it's sad, it is sad because, when great talent comes out of Ireland and, in the music industry like Sinead, it really helps to bring the Irish culture to the world, So, but how's the sound and the picture quality? I'm getting a weird message from my streaming software. Let's see. The authorities in Ireland did not disclose why. She did lose a son, I think, 18 months ago, and she never really got over it. It was really rough for her. So there's no, I'm not sure, how she passed away, but it's really sad, Oh, Wendy says the Irish have the most crystal clear singing voices. There's a good argument for that. Really is, So yeah, like the Coors and the Cranberries, U2, you know, all those different bands coming out of Ireland. You know, it's one of the ways that Ireland shines, right? Definitely, definitely. So going back to the painting, so I started with my airbrush underpainting. I used this stuff, which was the 50/50 illustration white, and I mixed it half and half with water. And so mixing that half and half with water, I went ahead and put that through the airbrush. But while I did that, I used the method that was shared on Mr. Scott McKay's live stream of using the little pipe screen with a little lug nut or little ratchet set. Let me see if I can get that for you to show you how I did mine. I just had it here a second ago. So with the white, you know, especially with white, you get those little pieces of whatnot. And so you see there's a little pipe screen in there, and I just put that in there, and then I just, when I first mix it, and I pour it through here, and I pour it into another cup, and then I go ahead either replace this or just rinse it out, and that's a real big help, you know. Let's see. Oh, sound is good? Okay, great. And pictures okay? So that's fantastic. Thank you guys. So all good from Michael. So thank you for that. And Color Graphics, Roy and Patty, thanks for the sound check. I appreciate it. So I think I've seen Wendy's art on YouTube and also on Instagram. So those are the two sites that I've seen. So I have my glasses. So what we're going to do, so a good treat is I'm going to go ahead and work in the Airbrush India ink, and then when I get to a certain point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the shellac, and I'm going to shellac it and prepare it for using the Wicked paints. So we're going to go over this in color. Not tonight, but next week is when we do our first initial layers of color. But I wanted to show you all like why I use the Airbrush India ink, because after I get all the values I want, I can erase the pencil lines before I put the shellac on there, because then the pencil lines will be locked in and I don't want to be fighting them. I want no pencil lines visible, you know? Yeah, it was so sad, definitely. So I have my water. Let me see if I could show yourself, Tim. There I am. How are you guys? I have my water, and I have a new Ink Flinger shirt. See that? This one's in black. Just made it. I did it in one of my classes with Roy. We did vinyl. So I did a t-shirt, came out pretty cool, I think. And let's put that over there. Okay. Michael says, Tim, it looks like you're doing good with the Wicked paint. Thank you, my friend. I'm having a really good time. There is a learning curve with that, but I got a lot of help from other airbrush artists out there, and from Dennis at Createx. They've been really great, you know, really, really great. And thanks for the encouragement there, Mike, that's for sure. So let's see, we're going to start. I have the detail mixture in the Extreme Patriot Arrow. I have that with the 50% detail mixture, 50% water. Little thirsty. Okay, let's see. Hey, what's up there? Great to see you, Bill. How's everything? fantastic video on the No Name paint, and that parrot was really nice. Just want to let you know that. That was a beautiful parrot. So what I'm going to do is we're going to be working on Sinead, and we're just going to be going over with the detail mixture and everything like that. Hey honey, how's it going? Great to see you. How's everything? I'm so glad you're here. And Bill says Dennis is very accessible. Yeah, he's a great person. He really is cool. A pleasure to talk with and extremely helpful. And let's see. So I'm so glad Honey and Bill are here. So I had this cut because I don't want overspray. I want this to be super clean, and that's kind of my thing I'm doing, kind of my theme in oil painting and in airbrush, everything being super clean. And you can see the difference. It might be subtle. One of the things I love doing when I'm working on panel is using the Frisket film. I started using that again, old school, and I just love Frisket film. Love it, love it. Really enjoy it. So great group today. Thank you everyone for hanging out. It may be a short one because I'm only going to go so far with this underpainting, and then I'm going to go ahead and prepare this with the shellac, but I'm going to show you how I prepare it with the shellac, and that will be very helpful, I hope. Let's see, put this here. I want to be helpful, and so I just want to make sure that I have the magnets close to the edge, so this way I don't get any underspray, right? That's important, no underspray. And but yeah, the passing of Sinead O'Connor hit me pretty hard. We're the same age, actually 1 day apart as far as age goes. She's from Ireland, my family's from Ireland. I remember where I was when I first heard a song. No shellac yet, Wendy, because the shellac won't accept the India ink as well. So I want to make sure that I have the India ink. I'm able to erase the pencil lines, and then shellac, and then go over with the Wicked. So shellac comes later, you know, and so very, very cool. And let's see, Honey says, I didn't miss greeting anyone, but if I did, hello, when Honey said. No, I think you got everyone. Yeah, no, definitely. This is probably the best route to go that I'm going right now, because I have total control. And so you don't want to put the shellac on there, because it's not going to be as accepting as, you know, just plain paper. Okay, so let me get my reference of Sinead, and you see my reference up here, right? And let's rock and roll, everybody. Let's see. There we go. And so right now I'm just going to continue working, and please feel free to ask any questions. I'll be more than happy to help. And just want to quickly thank God for the live stream tonight and all the blessings that comes with, you know, having great people like yourselves and the ability to have the live streams. So right now I think I'm at like 25 psi, and I have the detail mixture. And so I'm just going to start bringing her to life in black and white, and that's going to be very important. And what brand of shellac do you use? It's called Zinsser. Great question. Zinsser, and you can get it anywhere. You just want to get the clear version, honey. That's important. Plus there's an Amazon link in the description It's a affiliate link. So if you do buy it there, I get a little tiny commission. But $21 around, and it'll last you forever. Bill says, pencils sit on top, ink needs to absorb it. Yes, that's true. And so what happens is the ink kind of still, even though I'm doing the ink over the pencil, believe it or not, you're still able to erase the pencil afterwards. And then when I come in the shellac, there's going to be no hint of pencil lines. And, you know, it's always a work in progress, Wendy, so we'll see how it goes, you know. So right now I have the best control with the India ink, of course, because I've been doing that technique for quite some time. And I'm just going to continue working on just getting more detail. So when I'm ready to come in with color, I'm going to have so much information, and that's going to be very helpful. And Honey says, does it change the color with time, or does it stay true to color? It is totally light fast. It doesn't change color, and it's really fantastic. So shellac is actually used longer than there's more history with shellac as a ground for painting than acrylic gesso. And so shellac for a ground has been used for hundreds of years, and it's completely archival, and also it's pH neutral, so it's not too acid, so it's not going to eat through your paper or anything like that. And it's all natural because shellac is made from the excretions of the lac beetle, which is found mostly in India, which is quite interesting. So great questions, Wendy and Bill and Honey. Thank you. So the idea of working with the India inks is really important because there's so many applications. You could use them for underpaintings, for pastel, for oils, for airbrush paintings, you know, like with Wicked, and even with automotive you could use it. If you have maybe the Autoborn sealer, and you could go ahead and paint over there, do the underpainting with the India inks, because you have so much more control with the India inks, you know. And it does a little bit, right? It will change it a little bit. It changes the paper with the initial application, just like gesso would. And but then again, it doesn't darken your colors, you know, down the line or anything like that. So it is a wonderful surface that everyone should try. You know, this way you can do a painting and you don't have to worry about, you know, preparing a board and sanding it and doing several layers and all that. This is much more simple. So definitely, if you work a lot like me, there's only so many boards you can make. So incorporating paper into your repertoire with the shellac really helps out financially. Plus, it's another part of the medium to master, which is exciting. Really is. Yeah, well, you using those oils that you use, that brand, and they're notorious for never drying. So right now I'm going to be working on the alar cartilage right there. Oh, look at that. Bill says he wants to import the 4G board, but the shipping is crazy. Yeah, Geneva oils, yes. I do recommend, highly recommend a couple of brands of oil. I have my favorites. Plus, there's really no one brand, because One brand might have the perfect alizarin crimson, another brand might have the perfect perfect titanium white. So to stick with one brand is usually not the best thing to do. Gamblin's beautiful brand, definitely. Michael says, can you use the shellac under and over your paintings? I would only use it under the paintings, and I would use a varnish over the paintings. Just because with the varnish, you know, like maybe like the Gavar or the UVLS clear, or maybe one of those automotive clears, you know, I would definitely stick with something that is made for that, you know. Great question. And I'm just going to keep moving around. And the whole thing is just to continue getting the likeness of Sinead. And her eyes are so powerful. Clear varnish. I love the gloss, definitely, Wendy. Good point. But are you supposed to be able to use over it, but it's more fragile than a varnish? I really don't know. It might be a good varnish, but it's just something I may experiment with. But I just have to be a little careful because I think a regular varnish would probably be best. You know, just to remove it. Now, I think if you use denatured mineral spirits or something like that, you can remove the varnish, but on paper it might get a little tricky. So I would just use Gavar. I like Gavar. So all of this is going to really set up nicely for the Wicked paints. So I have been working on a painting with Wicked, and I'm really enjoying it. And so preparing for this one, which is going to be the first live stream using Wicked paint. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Varnish would definitely be better. How about a rattle can clear? I would great question, both Wendy and Michael. I would just say always do a test first before you ever touch it to a painting that you love. Yeah, so definitely, I mean, Gavar is really good. The UVLS clear, the 4050 is really good. I mean, Steve Leahy uses the satin, and he just had a live stream about it. He says he really loves it. So definitely. Oh, that's true. So you can get the varnish out of the can. That's interesting. Very cool. Now, I'm looking at her nose, and we have to look at the anatomy of the nose, and you can see that this is her alar cartilage, and I want to make sure I get that correct. Alar in Latin means, I believe it means wing. And the alar cartilage is usually very symmetrical, and it kind of has a butterfly look to it. And all these pencil guidelines I'm going to be able to get rid of, which is really fantastic. I want to keep the values a little bit on the light side because when I come in with color, it's going to darken anyway. So you don't want to go to the same exact value because you'll darken it by putting other values on top of it when we go into color, you know. And oh, cool. So lots of good information on varnishes. Very cool. Thanks, everybody. So that is great. Keep the discussion going. Love to hear that. And you want to get the angles of the upper lateral cartilage and then the nasalis bone right there. You want to get all of those things. It's best to deal with this now in black and white with the airbrush, India ink, and the pencil, rather than trying to handle that with the Wicked paint. It's just too much to juggle. Oh, cool. So Bill says most art stores will have that Winsor & Newton spray varnish, which is cool. And let's see. Wow, Golden has it as well. Interesting. Very interesting. But yeah, I think it's all, you know, if you have proper ventilation, and, you know, it's all great for experimentation and find out, you know, what works best for you in your particular studio and our needs, right? And I'm just gonna love being able to get rid of all the pencil lines. And you can see here is the beginning of the Malafat right here. And once I get rid of that pencil line, it'll look less harsh. And of course right here is her retroobicularis oculi fat pad right there. So I want to make sure that I'm showing that. And then we have the glabella right over here. And the glabella is the space between the frontal bone here and the nasal bone here, right? There's two nasal bones, and in between is this indentation, and gives us that, you know, where the nose starts on top, there's an indentation, that's called the glabella. And so we want to make sure that we indicate that, which is going to be a little lighter right in between and elsewhere. So we want to make sure we show that. And then a slight darkness right here. So the ability to, you know, draw on the anatomy when doing portraits is really super, super important. Wendy said his shellac smelled like hairspray. And Bill says even though he has spray guns, varnish in a can is too easy to pass up. Very great information. So cool. So I definitely will experiment. I'll let you know my findings, but that's really, so that, thank you, Bill. That's going to be great to explore. Just a little indication of the Malafat compartment right there. And then the side plane of the nose. And so we're not just painting the face, right? But we're painting all the different anatomical elements that we know of. That's going to help us to find the likeness and character of Sinéad. And that's going to be important. Wow, 1011 by 14. That's great. And let's see. Keep this going here. So right here on the corner of the eye, you'll see a little shadow right there on the eye on camera left. And let's go ahead and work on her philtrum. And it goes slightly, not straight up and down, just tilting more towards 12 o'clock. But yeah, so a little bit towards 1 o'clock, I should say. And this is super subtle. And all these little things, you know, these little anatomical forms are really important. If you put them all together, we'll end up with, you know, a really nice likeness of Sinéad. And we'll start working on her lips here. See how that goes. We'll make sure here. Patty says, Tim, she's looking good. She needs to sign off. Thank you so much for hanging out, Patty. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great night, and thanks so much. Don't work too hard. Let's go ahead and work on her lips. And just, you know, put a little more three-dimensional quality to that. That would be great. And let's see here. If you haven't sprayed with my India inks yet, I really highly recommend it because it's like a dream. I mean, they just really do everything you tell them to. Now, this lip here, a little bit more pointy than the drawing, so I'm just going to go ahead right there on the top. Okay. And so here on the bottom lip, it's just a little bit, and it's actually the same color as the skin, same value. So I really have to use little shadow around it. Remember, the shapes adjacent to a shape often describes the shape more than the shape itself, and this is a perfect example. Then there's a little bit of shape inside the shape here in the bottom lip here. And so we're just giving a little more light and dark here in her lips. Then of course right here we have the, let me see if I can show you in the bigger, so right here we have her mental fat compartment, and then it's kind of being pushed out by the retroorbicularis oculi fat, which goes around the mouth in a complete circle. And let's see. Oh, Mike says he has yet to try the, oh yeah, you would really love it. The ink is fantastic. It really is. Let's see, really good talk on varnishing, which is great. And glad to hear that Mr. Bill's wife is doing well. Thank God for that. Oi, oi, Andre, como vai você? So good to see you. So Andre Grafia here from Brazil is here and just doing amazing work. It's so great to see you. Bill says the inks definitely spray nice. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that very much, Bill. So cool. So we have, what a great group today. You know, it's not a lot of people, but it's the quality that's so important. So great group. And so again, we were working on the mental fat compartment right here. So it's just a little bit below the lower lip. There's always this thing right here. Let's see if I could bring that up. So always right below the lower lip, maybe about a quarter of an inch to half an inch. That's where the orbicularis oris cuts into that malafat and creates that ball that's right there on the chin. So I thought I'd share that with you guys. Great to see you. Thank you. Muito obrigado, Andre. Muito obrigado. Incredible artist. So good to see you. And so now we worked on that anatomical form, and that's what we're doing is really, this is where we could really, you know, bring home those anatomical forms and just prepare for coming in with the wicked paint, working with the transparents and the opaques, and just taking the color to that next level. We don't want to be thinking about anatomy while working in color at the same time. We want that there. That's basically the real gist of why you would do something like this. So you're not juggling 4 balls, maybe you're juggling 2 bowling balls, right? So that's my thinking, and that's the thinking of the 19th century academic painters, right? So they would do a careful drawing, and then they would do a careful grisaille, which is similar to what I'm doing here, and then after the grisaille, then they would come in with the transparents and the opaques. So very pragmatic approach, but still, you know, it's really important to have a game plan, right? Plan to fail. If you don't plan, you plan. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I think a lot of times when people just go in really quickly, yeah, it's amazing when it works, but it is a hit and miss. With this, it could be a hit or miss, but the misses are a lot less frequent. And you see I have these little linear guidelines that will go away, so the lines will help the larger shapes, and the larger shapes and the lines will help the subsequent color. So it really is a great technique, and it's a traditional historic technique. And right now I'm going to work on the underside of her chin, because the light, if you look at this, is coming from above and slightly to camera left, and it's in front of her. So that means anything that's below, like her chin, is going to get a degree of shadow. And then when you want to go from dark to light, let's just use our airbrushes or aerodynamics to do it. You know, the inverse square law. Just increase your distance, makes the cone bigger, separates the intensity of the spray of the ink or the paint, and it gets lighter, so you get these really amazing gradations. Muito obrigado, Andre. Yes, I love live streams so much, and thank you so much for your kindness, sir. And Mr. Brad, how are you today, sir? So glad to see you. So once again, Sinead O'Connor, when she was young, I was the same age as her. And, you know, it was a weird time to be that age in the 90s. Everything was changing. We were the one generation where we seen the old ways of technology and the new ways, and we lived through the Iron Curtain, and then the wall came down, and there was just so many different things going on at the time. The birth of grunge, and you know, like the old actors, you know, like I don't know, Richard Burton, Elizabeth Taylor, Rock Hudson. They were all leaving, you know, retiring and everything, and started getting the new actors coming up, and it was just a time of transition, you know, it really was. Big time of transition. And so this song that she did came out in 1990 or 91. I think it was 1990 that Nothing Compares to You came out. Interesting fun fact, Prince wrote that song, which I thought was interesting. So I'm using a freehand shield here, and I'm going to start to indicate her hair. And it's a pretty rich dark right here. So I want to really get that edge. And of course, a lot of this is going to go away when we paint. Most of it's going to go away when we paint with color. But oh boy, look at that. I think I left some fingerprints. I mean, it's less detrimental now because we're going over it in, I think it's coming up though, thank God. Okay, but we are going over this in with paint, but be careful not to touch your painting with your hands. But since it's light, that's all going to go away, so that's always a good thing. And you want those magnets close to the edge. And the line drawing, you know, my line drawing helps out the black and white shapes, and the black and white shapes is going to help out the subsequent color layers of Wicked that we're going to be doing, which is going to be great. And hey, what's up? How's everything going? Great to see you, DreadFX. Enjoy your channel very much. So we got some really talented painters out there. Thank you. So Dread, I don't know if you know, I always do an underpainting when I work in oils, and I work in airbrush with golden, and now I'm working in airbrush and with the Wicked, and I'm going to go ahead and work on this to do my underpainting. And then I'll go in with color. So and now I'm working on the dark part of her hair. So what I want to do is I want to adjust this background stencil because it's kind of not fitting flush, and I'm afraid if I continue I may not get the edge I want. So let's be safe than sorry, right? That's always important. Yes. Hey JC, how's it going? Great to see you. How are you? Yeah, a lot of great artists tonight, definitely. You all are great artists out there, but some real heavy hitters today, you know? So it's great to see. Mike says, Tim, I like how you can name every part of the face. I can only name almost all the parts of the car. Hey, that's it, you know, and that's great, you know, that you can do that, because, you know, I admire that with cars. It's you guys who are good with cars, like Roy is great with cars, so is Brad, and I mean, I admire you guys that do that. So here's our underpainting right now, and what I'm going to do is I want to basically see, this wasn't flush, and I'll show you what happens when your stencil or your freehand stencil is just not quite there. And it's easy fix, but you see that? So I sensed it, and that's why I made that change, you know? Oh, and Dred says he just woken up and the dog decided to jump on his head, wanted to play. That's funny. Yes, dogs will definitely decide what time we get up. Same thing with my cat. Okay, so I want this edge, so I'm making sure that I get this edge and get rid of that little hair. So I'm going to get rid of this border because it's in the way. The border's not that important because I'll crop it anyway. But if it gets in the way of putting on the stencil correctly, it's got to go. A hierarchy of importance, right? Let's go ahead and put this on. So the first thing I'll do is get this on here. It's an easy fix, even if I did go over it. Yeah, so great question, Brad. I will be going over this with the shellac, and I may even put the shellac tonight to show you all. We might just kind of chit-chat while the ink dries, but I think that would be cool. Would you guys like to see the application of shellac on this? How I do it? How much? What brush? All that fun stuff. Okay. Oh, cool. So Brad says sure. That's good. Okay, so now this is on there really good, really well. And so now we can work on her hair. Am I doing okay with ink? Yes. Just make sure those magnets are close to the edge. We don't want underspray. So no underspray zone here. So looking at the portrait of Sinead, I can see that it's very dark around the edge of her head there. Roy says, go for it. Hey Pam, all the way from Virginia. How are you? Great to see you. How's everything? I'm so glad you're here. How's everything over there? Let me see, am I running out? Nope. Maybe a little bit of tip dry, perhaps. There we go. So with the ink, you don't want to go too wet, you know, just like anything else. So you want to make sure that you just apply some value. You can always come back and go darker, but you don't want to oversaturate and kind of stain the paper. You want the paper to catch up to the ink, or the ink to catch up to the paper, vice versa. So right here on the edge, it's a little bit dark there, and then right along the edge here, it's a little dark, and there's a little respite right there. So very cool. Oh, so it's hot in Virginia, huh, Pam? That's for sure. JC said it was a good thing that just the dog woke him up and not something else. That's cool. So good to see you, JC. Thanks for coming. So it's lighter, but there's a little bit of a texture. So I'm just like pumping that trigger. But I'm kind of looking to see where the darker values are and just building them up. Just pumping that trigger. And of course, it's important that we get her hairline, right? Because that's a real hairline is an important thing in getting a likeness of a person. And I don't want to stay too long with the hair, just want to establish her hair. Get some of these larger shapes, value shapes. Pumping that trigger. There's always a good idea to go for texture at all times. Put this over here. So you see here how that creates a shadow. So you just use one of the more lower profile magnets so you don't leave a shadow. Same here, you don't want to cast shadow getting in the way. You might think there's a dark there and there isn't, but it's the cast shadow. So you want to be careful of that. But what a great start that we're doing it this way, right? Just a really great start. Okay, let's move away from the hair a little bit. And these are anatomical forms that we see here, the temporal ridge. We have the temporal ridge on this side, but it's a lot less evident than on this side. So the airbrush I'm using is the Extreme Patriot Arrow, customized by myself. Has all the best qualities of Badger and just the best qualities in just, you know, having a highly controlled airbrush, but using a 0.30 needle nozzle combination. And what does that mean is that there's less tip dry, there is more ability to get a wide variety of uses out of this, which is really fantastic. 94, wow, that's hot. Yeah, I think it's going to be like 96 tomorrow here or something like that. Or is that, yeah, I think that's tomorrow. Just pumping this trigger, it's getting some of the subtle shapes here. Okay, so right here, I want to, now her chin looks like it's too small because we're not giving the accent that is the cast shadow onto her neck, right? So let's make that happen. I'm going to go perpendicular and not parallel. And you see how her chin automatically becomes the right, appears to be the right size. See how as we do that, now we're really getting into, you know, the likeness of Sinéad. So really happy with that. Now here's an interesting area. We have her sternocleidomastoid coming down here. So you see this part of her neck area, quote unquote, is the sternocleidomastoid. And then this part right here is her trapezius, right? So those are, you know, the elements that are causing that. Mr. Dwayne, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that, my friend. I always appreciate, you know, your support, my friend, your great comments and everything. And I'm glad I don't call your city the Banana Slugs. I only did that once. But thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. I really appreciate it. It helps out so much. I just want to let you know. I mean, the super chat stickers are going to pay my PSE&G next month. That's my electric and gas, and believe me, that's just a real relief, you know, trying to do this full time. So your support, Dwayne, is really appreciated, sir. I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you, sir. So Squarebag, how are you? He says, I'm sorry if I already covered this, as he just turned in a few minutes. Can you please tell me what type of paint you're using and what kind of surface you're painting on? Oh, Squarebag, it's my pleasure. Never a bad question. And so basically right now I'm using my patent pending Airbrush India inks, and I use that to do my underpaintings for using Wicked, which I'll be doing. Now you might say, how are you doing this on 90-pound paper? Well, that's the thing. I'm going to be using, after I'm finished with the underpainting using the Airbrush India inks, I'm going to go ahead and shellac it. And then at that point, after shellacking it, I'm going to go ahead and go in with the Wicked. Oh, thank you, Squarebag, for the wonderful super chat sticker. You and Dwayne are just amazing. Thank you. That is such a great big help. I just want to let you know that. It is a huge, huge help. It just kind of, no, it's life-saving. So thank you so much for that wonderful, wonderful donation. You and Dwayne, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And if there's never a bad question, I don't care if it's something I just said a second ago, you know, I'll be happy to answer. That's what it's all about, you know. It's all about letting you guys know, guys and girls know, the new stuff that I find out, you know, and letting maybe you guys could try it out. I think that's fantastic. My pleasure. You guys saved me from a boring Wednesday night. I just want to let you know, I look forward to this so much. One of the things about the cast shadow, if you notice that the cast shadow is really dark here, and then right here there's like this little triangle shape, and it's getting a reflected light from the bottom part of her chin, bouncing off the white t-shirt, off the chin, and there's this little tiny area of reflected light. So let's see if we can kind of explore that a little bit. And it's so much better to explore this when you're using black and white as opposed to going in with color and blue shift and all that. So there is a real method to my madness. But it's not mine. It's from the 19th century French academic painters. You know, a bit of a armchair art historian. It's one of my little pursuits. So, you know, looking at the work of Jacques-Louis David and Jean-Dominique Ingres, Auguste Dominique Ingres, and artists like that, and how they use the grisaille, they called it, or underpainting, is really important. And it really just relieves a lot of the scary elements. Okay, so You see how I handled that, and that kind of gives strength to her chin, because she does have a really beautiful jawline, and we want to make sure that we don't take that away from her. That would be terrible. So I'm not going to worry about up here. I'm not worrying about up there, because now I'm working down here. So I'm just going to adjust it for the area I'm working on. Be very careful, because in the beginning I used the illustration, Drew Blair's Createx 50/50 illustration white, and I cut it 50/50, 50% water, 50% of the 50/50 illustration white, and I sprayed in my lights, but it seems it's a little susceptible to fingerprints. So when you do this technique, please be careful. I did get a couple of fingerprints, as you can see. But we're going to be so many layers of paint, that's going to go away. It's just a little scary right now, but it's neither here nor there in the grand scheme of things. And so, very cool. So let's move up a little bit. So yeah, so we're working on the contour of her sternocleidomastoid going into her trapezius. Most people would say the neck, but it really isn't the neck. It's two very large, important muscles that makes up the contour here. So, you know, breaking it down for what it really is as opposed to what it appears to be, right? Same thing here. Right here, this is basically, looks like it's the sternocleidomastoid, and then here is the tracheal area right over here. So right here, let me see if I just put this here, this little tracheal area comes down. See that? That's a little tracheal area. And then over here, of course, we have the, let's go ahead, and we want a nice sharp edge here, where the sternocleidomastoid is actually in front of the trapezius, right? So it's also important to take in consideration which muscle is forward, which muscle is going back. So it's not enough just to know that's trapezius and that's the sternocleidomastoid. Where are they in relation to another? See that? Now I'm hitting that sternocleidomastoid, and also nailing this trapezius muscle. And each muscle is being affected by light and dark. And the same light and dark that's affecting her eyes and her nose and her mouth. So we got to make sure that we act accordingly. John, how you doing? Great to see you. Thank you so much. And interested to see how you would achieve the texture of her buzz cut. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun, definitely. Always great to see you, John. It's going to be fun. I love texture, right? Texture's a lot of fun to work with. Definitely. So what a great group we have today. Very exciting. Really appreciate everyone here tonight. You guys are all amazing, guys and girls, of course. So you see right now we're working on this. You can't see it that well, maybe because I have high profile magnets. So let's put that here. And so very, very cool. And let's come over here like that. And the great thing is we have the magnet, so we can do this. So as a form kind of turns, even though it's not in shadow, as it turns towards the back, because we're facing the front, you're going to see a value because it's turning away from us and away from the light, because the light is in between us and her most likely. And so as you go away from us, you're going away from the light, and you're seeing a dark on the contour of her trapezius. And Squarebed says, Tim, what are you using to mask the outline shape of her head? Yes, it is actually acetate. I started using Mylar, but acetate cuts really well with the Cameo 4. If you have a Cricut, that works really well too. It's a great technique. And but I do love Frisket. Frisket is just really great, but I can't use it on paper. I can, but it's a little risky, and you know, you got to be willing to take that risk, and I'm not at this point. But I have used Frisket on paper, and it was very successful. But like I said, you're taking a little bit of a chance, and do you want to take that chance, you know? And use that airbrush as you go further away. You know, you're going to have a lighter spray, and you're just going to have this beautiful, nice gradation that you don't have to work hard to get, you know? You don't want to work hard for the gradation. Let the gradation happen. Let the airbrush do the hard work, the heavy lifting. Just taking a quick water break. Okay. All right, so far so good. We're just going to continue working on her sternocleidomastoid right here. See that little triangle of light, the reflected light? And then right here, super light, we're going to indicate the turning of her chin. And of course right here we have the zygomatic bone, right, as it turns in, and right here is the space between the zygomatic bone and the mandible or jawbone. In layman's terms, the cheek and the jawbone, but in technical terms, the zygomatic bone and the mandible. It does help to know the names because the function of it is usually in the names. So that's pretty cool. So a lot of times, like right here, the retroapicularis oculi fat, and the retro means it's behind in the back part. The oculi means eye, and opicularis is that muscle that goes around. And so the retroapicularis oculi fat, the name also describes what it is, right? And oh, no worries, ask as many questions. That's what I'm here for, Squareberg, that's for sure. And so as many questions as you have, I'm more than happy to answer. So Squareberg says, where could I purchase the magnets and metal backing? You can get them at Amazon very easily. And what I'll do is I'm going to get those links for you really quick. I'm actually pretty fast at this. Let me see, because I have the exact ones that I got, and I think that would be a great help for you. I'll just get those links for you. Okay, so and I believe if I go to my orders, I purchased this in 2021. And it's great because it has that information real readily available. Let's see. And the information, and who really is responsible for the magnets is watching the great Steve Leahy. Just great information he shared with me when I was watching his live streams way back then during the pandemic. It was just so great. I mean, how much I learned from him is really great. So I did find the metal board right here, and it's 17.5 by 12, which is perfect for your desk, right? And let me get that for you. And let's see. Okay, so I'm putting the board right now. So there's the link. So you just click that. So that's cool. And let me get the magnets that I got here. And so that is great. So perfect. So here's some of these magnets here. Now I would go ahead, I'm going to point you in the right direction, but there's so many different magnets and different sizes. Here's 20 of them for only $10. So this would be a good one to go on the link and just move around and see if you can find, you know, maybe some other magnets besides that one to look for. But I'm pointing you in the right direction. Okay, great. So those two links, now those links are affiliate links, so that's the same price, but if you use that link to buy it, I get a small commission. I just want to let you know that. And oh, Mike, great to meet you, Mike. So Mike, where are you from? What state? Yeah, so Amazon's a great place. So always feel free to ask as many questions. That's my job. Amazon's a great place. So always. Whoop, that was my live stream was going on. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, Westchester. Okay, pretty close, Mike. So that's great. So very close. We're kind of like neighbors. Upstate New York, they call it, right, my friend? All right, so now let's go back to our beautiful Sinéad here. So now I'm working on the alar cartilage right here, and I want to get that right. So many subtleties in the nose that's tricky. You have to, and it's so much easier to get at this stage with the India ink, and then having a lot of this stuff already worked out is great. Now, if anyone's interested in learning this technique, in the comments, I have it pinned on the top, is my online course. And it's $149. It takes you from a portrait from the very beginning to end using the Airbrush and India inks. It's just a full portrait in this Airbrush and India inks, but that would be really great because it will give you everything you need to do this technique and use it for you're working with Createx or Golden, you know, the illustration colors are wicked. So that would be a great resource for you. So it's like, I think it's almost 5 hours of instruction for only $149, and it comes with a set of the inks, the white mixture, the white pastel. So a lot of great stuff with it comes with it. So it's on the top, and also link in the description for my course if you're ever interested. And again, I'm just looking, so she's not just one form, right? It's not just a face. There's the frontal bone, right? Up here, there's the zygomatic bone, the maxilla, there's the nasal bone, the upper lateral cartilage, so all these different, like the nose, the eyes, they're all like a bunch of forms that are next to each other or on top of each other that needs to turn towards the light and away from the light in some way. So it's really painting a lot of forms as opposed to one form. But John Auguste Dominique Ingres, the 19th century French neoclassical painter, said, paint the ensemble, make it look like it happened all in one breath, not a nose, an eye, a mouth, but that means keep moving around, right? Don't stay in one place, and that's going to really help to create a portrait of somebody, not a series of features. It's important to know the anatomy, but don't forget the humanity, right? Oh, I got to write that down. So it's important to know the anatomy, but not forget the humanity. I'm going to write that down. It's important to know the anatomy and not forget the humanity. I like that. I'm sure someone else said that, but right now that sounds pretty good. And let's continue. So I keep moving around, and I see here the helix as it turns into the ear. It's in shadow, and then it kind of gets lighter as it turns towards the light. And then there's the tragus right here. And the anti-tragus. Getting the anatomy of the face is so important because it really is going to stand up. You know, it's so important to get it correctly. The goal of any painter when you're working with the figure or portraits, if he or she stepped off of the canvas or the paper, would they be able to stand up literally? And that is like one of my considerations. I mean, would she be a monster if, you know, the way I painted her? And so that causes me to make sure that I'm subtle and not too harsh and different things like that. Because, you know, I could blow it and I don't want to. You know, it's great because I'm setting up getting rid of pencil lines. It's all about getting rid of pencil lines. So here's this ear, although it's a minor player, right? The ear's a minor player, a supporting actress, so to speak, in the portrait. But if that ear is played really nice, it's really going to support her portrait as a whole, right? And it's going to be a strength, and that's important. Hey Michelle, how you doing all the way from Mexico? How's everything? Great to see you. Yes, the copyright phrase, right? Pat pending. It's great to see you, Michelle. This is a great night. So many cool people are here. So that is really a nice surprise, Michelle. And you see here we're working on all these like real subtle anatomical nuances with her. And again, so I worked on the edge here. Maybe I'll just come right over here. We have this edge. So now I want to work on the edge of the ear. So my goal is not so much here right now. Now I'm going to be working on getting that edge of the ear, of her ear. And we'll go there. Let's see. So right here is her ear. Just want to make sure I don't have any ghosting, so I want that edge to be right on the money. There we go. So I'm not really worried about anything else lining up, just the contour of her ear. That's all I care about. And so it's great to move around like that, and this way you get the edges that you're looking for. And so cool. So some really good thank yous. Thank yous to you guys. Here's an important, and it happened to me just a little bit, is sometimes when you're spraying, a little bit of moisture could get on your tip of your airbrush, and you stop, and when you come back, that little bit of moisture is right there, and then all of a sudden, psh, you're spraying that little bit that's on there, and it could just make your life a little bit difficult, you know. Take care, Bill. It's great to see you, and keep doing the great work and the great videos, and glad to hear the missus is feeling really well. Take care, sir. So right in here, this is the anti-helix, and the anti-helix goes into this triangular fossa here. But the whole idea is like knowing the name of triangular fossa because it creates a triangle. So the name is actually a clue as to what it does and where it is. It's a good thing to study. Okay, right here. Always go lighter. You can always go dark later, but always make sure subtlety is definitely the name of the game. And see, there's a lot of little nuances, ebbs and flow of forms. So it's not just an ear, it's like maybe 7 or 8 forms that are kind of on top of each other and right next to each other. It's really important to get all of that. Another good thing is to have the stencils if you're working and maybe you might lose your contour, your line drawings. It's always important to have those proportional stencils, as Mr. Drew Blair calls them, which is great. And just to bring it back, and let's see if I do have, let's see. Now, I do have so this is what I'm working on. So this is actually going to be my second painting using the Wicked, which I really love. So here's the first one that I'm working on. And this is with Wicked paint on the paper, the same paper that's shellacked. And you can see that it takes the paper takes the Wicked paint really well. And so far the experiment is going pretty good. And but as you see, this was also an India ink underpainting with the pencil. So I did the line drawing in pencil, and then after the line drawing I went in with India ink, and then when I was done I erased the pencil, and then I came back with the shellac, one layer of shellac, and then came in with many layers of the Wicked detail and the regular Wicked line, and maybe a little bit of paintbrush technique over here. There's a few things I'd like to do with this, such as come in and get more detail in her hair, and also the strap and in her dress, and also some of the edges. But I would say I'm about 90%. Thanks, Brad, I appreciate that. And so a lot of subtlety. But what I find is that when you're working with a gray paper, as opposed to a gray, you know, painting something gray underneath, is that the paper is inherently gray. So nothing's going to get rid of that. And that gray is going to come through, and it keeps the colors from getting too overbearing and overly saturated. Plus, when we're lighter in the halftones, we could use the paper as those halftones, which is really a great technique and a great advantage of using the paper. Now, you can see this is 189 pound color line paper by Canson. This paper is 90 pounds, and it's by De La Rowney. It's the Canford cardstock. This color is gold gunmetal. This color is the pebble gray. So, but one layer of shellac, and there will be one layer of shellac on the portrait of Sinéad as well. So, yeah. So the Wicked paint is really a lot of fun. You know, it takes some getting used to, but like anything else, when you work hard at it, you'll learn the ebb and flow of a particular paint. And I see so many advantages to, you know, really mastering the wicked line. One of the main ones is that you can paint on anything, right? Any hard surface, which is really fantastic. So that's all I have to say about that. So as you can see, we're working hard. I think that's good enough for the ear for now, for her ear for now. And oh, maybe just a little bit right here. There we go. And then over here we'll, ooh, look at that, that was loud. Let's see here. So next week we're coming in with color, which is going to be a lot of fun. Anyone who knows me, I don't rush into anything. Every battle is won or lost before it's ever fought. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. And so I go in with calculated measurements and knowing that, you know, it's important to, and so now I'm going to start doing some erasing, and you're going to see that's going to start happening now. Getting rid of some of those pencil lines. Now you may want to use the least aggressive as possible. Because remember, I do have the illustration white on here, so erasing will make it darker. So I want to, because it'll bring up the gunmetal color underneath. So I don't want it to get too dark. So I don't want to erase all of the 50-50 illustration white that I put on here. But getting rid of some of these pencil lines is going to make her a lot less harsh than I have her, and bring out her beautiful femininity. She has the most amazing eyes. Now she was born in Dublin. My family, part of my family was born in County Dublin, not too far from there. Ireland's a pretty small country, so we're probably related in one way or another. Both sets of grandparents came from Ireland. My grandparents, that is. And now you can see we're getting a lot of that subtlety. And a wing of her nostril. And now we can really start to shape that alar cartilage of her nose. And the subtlety of her philtrum. And when we really get into her eyes, that's where the real beauty of her is going to shine through. So today it was around 4 o'clock. I didn't know what I was going to do for the live stream. And I don't know what happened. I think I was on Instagram and someone said Sinead O'Connor passed away. No, it was on YouTube. And it just struck me that I had to paint her. You know, it just felt right to paint her. And you know, the fact that, you know, I'm beginning a live stream project, it just felt right. See, now getting rid of the pencil lines, it's the perfect beginning of working here. So right here you can see we have a little indication of her temporal ridge here. So I need to get that. And even though it's subtle, I have to make sure that I nail it. So I'm going to put, so you see how I indicated that. I may make it more subtle down the line, but it's important that I indicate that. And there's a lot of things that might be considered, you know, being too careful or whatever. But like I said, this is all about cleanliness and beautiful line and beautiful clean color. And so it starts in the beginning, right? It starts with the choosing of the paper, with you know, all those different elements are so crucial. It's not only the really fun stuff that's important, it's all these little things that's important. Here's the zygomatic bone going out here, and and then there's a space between the zygomatic bone, again, zygomatic bone and the jawbone, and then on the outside of that space where something goes in, something comes out. So you see, like right here, it's quite light because you have this space between the cheekbone and the jaw. So that's going in, and this is going to be pushing out over here. So where you have something pushing in, creating a shadow, like a pillow, the other side's going to have an opposite reaction, an equal and opposite reaction. So cool. So you can see where now the erasing part just kind of happened naturally. She has a cute little mole here. Let me put that in. Get, kitty. Just put that in. It's a mole right here. I might have made it a little bit too high, but I can always adjust that. All these values are super light in comparison to what they are, because I'm doing that because I'm going to becoming much darker when I add the color. Okay, right here, her lower eyelid. Hey, Mr. John Diekman, all the way from Wisconsin. How are you, my friend? Great to see you. And Mr. Todd says smash the like button. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you. Ooh, so let's see. So we're here. Let's go ahead. So I want to do another maybe 10 minutes. Let this dry, and then I'll do the shellac with you. Let's see. So I think this is a really great underpainting so far. I'm pretty happy with it. And let's see, what was I going to do? Oh, we're going to work on her eyes a little bit. Let's do that. Eye on camera left. Look at the control you can get with my airbrush in the inks. And let's move on over to our other eye. We can lower the air pressure on the pack valve. And we have that little ring around her iris. It doesn't get really dark until right about here. Great thing about my Extreme Patriot Arrow, you have the pack valve where you can adjust right on the nozzle. Adjust the air pressure. And we got a little bit of a shadow here. Increase your distance to get the subtlety, right? You don't want to, you know, be a magic person. Just let the airbrush do it. Aerodynamics and physics, right? That's our friends. When it comes to airbrush, it's all about that. And so that's so cool. So Mr. John Diekman is here. Always a pleasure, sir. And we have this little fold between the upper eyelid and the retroapicularis oculi fat right here. Here it's much darker. The white of the eye is more like the gray of the eye of her eye. So once again, Sinead O'Connor was born on December 8th, 1966. I was born on December 7th, 1966. Okay, let's see how she looks. Okay, starting to really get the character and beauty of Sinead here. Even though I'm going to probably obliterate those pencil lines, I mean those eyelashes, just for myself, I'm going to put them in. Maybe I'll remember where they were. I already painted them as I come in with color. I might obliterate them when I come into color. I don't know. It might be, you know, still important. It's funny how much you see when you really observe somebody. See the anatomical forms. So I work in oil paints, I work in airbrush in the inks, I work in airbrush with Createx, I work in airbrush in golden, I work in pastel. I mean, you name it, I work in it. And it's interesting that it is a different vocabulary, but you end up saying the same thing, because that's what happens when you work in different mediums. Even though you're using a different medium, when you master it, you should be no difference than the way your airbrush painting looks, your oil painting looks. There should be no difference. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is we have like another 20 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the pencil lines that I don't need anymore. Keep the ones I do need. Some subtle ones here and there. But the ones that border light areas, they have to go. But look, notice how the India ink kind of doesn't cover the, it's really wonderful how the India ink does not cover or trap those pencil lines. I'm using the Mono Zero eraser right now. So I'm really hoping that this live stream was good. You guys enjoyed it so far. And I'm so sorry to hear that Sinead passed away today. It's very sad. Very sad. So in my own way, just pay my respects. My own little way. Getting rid of. And, you know, I'm just happy right now with the underpainting to get a general feeling of her likeness. I'm not going for the exact likeness because everything has to be in place, and we're not after putting everything in place. We're just getting the overall kind of large strokes here. I'm going to leave this line because it's a very dark line. So I mean, a dark shape, you can keep those lines. You don't have to get rid of them. But you see the ones that are in the lights, you got to get rid of them because those are the ones that are going to show up when we put in color. Oh, thank you. So DreadFX says, great work, Tim, as always, and very well explained. I appreciate that. And it's so cool to see you all the way from the UK. Really love your videos. Just some incredible stuff. The way you explain different airbrushes and different paints is really fantastic. So I enjoy your channel a lot, sir. If you haven't checked it out, check out DreadFX. Really a great channel. Lots of fun. And not only fun, but great for your business and your artwork. Just incredible information. Just have to say that. Alright, so now we're going to take this off here. And this is as far as I'm going to go with the underpainting, but I think it's not bad, right? But I'm going to come in, and for a treat for you guys, I'm going to show you how I apply the shellac. So we're going to do that. We're just going to give it a few moments to actually kind of dry. But this is where we are. Maybe I could darken this eyebrow a little bit. This eyebrow comes over a little bit there. Great thing about the Airbrush India inks, they dry really fast, which is great. Hey Rick, thank you so much. I appreciate that, my friend. Always a pleasure. Great to see you, Rick, all the way from Canada. Okay, let me go get the shellac. And I'm going to put some paper underneath here because I don't want to re-shellac my desk. So let's put Sinead over here, and we're going to move this aside, and then we'll go ahead and we'll apply it, and that will be the conclusion. But you'll see just how quickly it happens, right? And 1, 2, 3. I do have some paper right over here. Any kind of paper will do. Got some lined paper. I think I need another piece. Let me see. One more piece would be good. Let's see. So what I'm going to do, go get the shellac and get a couple more lined paper, and then I'll show you how I mix it and everything. Be right back. Here's some more lined paper. Protect the desk. So the saying was, it's important to know the anatomy, however, not to forget the humanity. Love it. I think that's going to be one of my famous, I hope so one day it'll be a famous quote by me. And you were here to see the origin. So here is the stuff. It's Zinsser Bullseye Shellac. It's really the only kind you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's. It's the clear transparent. They sell an amber color, which is good to get that old-fashioned old master look, but the clear is really nice, and it's just one layer. So you're going to need, every time you use it, a screwdriver, a regular screwdriver, and you're going to take off these little clamps that you're going to put back on there, because you don't want to spill this stuff. And never shake it up, right? You're going to stir it, but you're not going to shake it up, because shake it up, you're going to have bubbles, and that's going to cause some issues. So that's a good little tidbit of tip there for you. And make sure you put these clips where you can find them. Don't put it on this desk, you'll never see it again. And let's see, put it over here, over here. So I think Sinead is dry by now. So like I said, my ink's dry, the pencil lines are all gone. I have an underpainting that I'm fairly happy with. Okay, so now we have this, but first let's get our thing we're going to stir. And I like to use a chopstick. You get a chopstick from the Asian restaurant, you can use that. Now I use the same brush. Look how it's rock hard. I'm going to show you how to use the rock hard. Once you use the brush for the shellac, that's it. It's a shellac brush for the rest of its life. So we're going to lift this very carefully. And we're just going to lift just one side at a time. There's no rush. Take your time. You don't want this splashing. Stuff is... There we go. See how it's dark? That means it's not mixed. So you're going to take this, you're going to put it aside, right? And then you're going to take your chopstick and you're going to mix this really well. And you're going to get this amber color. So you see this amber color? This kind of, I would say, Naples yellow and a little bit of yellow ochre color. That's the color you want when you have the clear, right? So you're going to mix this really well, but I'm not going crazy. I'm not making any bubbles or anything like that. And I'm making sure that I'm touching the bottom and kind of pushing whatever's on the bottom around. There we go. And you want to have some paper towels nearby. Give it a good mix. Maybe, you know, just like when you mix the Createx, right? You want to give it a minute. So once I have that, because this stuff is super sticky, I'm just going to dry that. Put this aside. That's going to be our stirrer for next time. So now, remember I told you about this. I'm going to move this over here. And I'm going to put Sinead over here. So we're getting her ready. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate this brush, because shellac will melt shellac. And in about a minute, they say, it should. If it doesn't, this does not look like it's activating. It's still very rock hard. So I'm not going to wait for this. It must be like leave it in there a minute. So I don't have a minute. So I'm just going to put this aside, and we're going to use another brush. And let's see, what do we have? This one's good. It's a very old watercolor brush. I must have had it since I was a kid. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this. Let's focus her. And as you see, I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to do one quick layer on here, right? Just one very fast layer. It's not anything neat or anything. I just want to, and it's going to look dark, that's normal. But it will dry clear. It may be a little bit on the yellow side, but it will dry clear. But the good thing is it's not interacting with the paint or the ink because they're waterproof. And I'm just going to hit this really quick. Try and keep it as even as possible. You want an even application. And so it seems very dark and uneven, but that will dry, and you wouldn't even be able to tell that the lacquer's on there. Not the lacquer, but the shellac. And it will start drying very quickly. And that's it. And you see we covered her. And just to make sure, you want to make sure that you covered everywhere. You don't want anything incomplete. And that's it. And that's all you have to do. And now she's just ready, so that's going to dry. And once that's dry, you're going to put it aside. You're going to let it go somewhere where it could, you know, be flat, because you don't want to have it where it curls. There we go. So now that's it. I'm going to be right back. We're going to put it in the other studio so it could lay flat. And by next week, actually by 4 or 5 hours, that should be ready to go ahead and come in with the Wicked or oil paint or anything you want to put on. Be right back, guys, for the conclusion. So this is not something that's avant-garde or anything like that. This is something that's been around a long time, hundreds and hundreds of years, as a ground for oil painting. But let me go ahead and show you how to put it back on. You just put that back on, and you could step on it. And I'm just stepping on it to really close that well. And once that's closed, you just put these back on. So this way it doesn't accidentally open. This one, there we go. That one didn't want to stay. So I think there was 3 of them. Was there 4 of them? No, I think there, oh, yeah, it was 4 right here. So now that falls, it's not going to open up and make the mess of your life. So there we go. Zinsser, the link is in the description. Bullseye Shellac Clear. So that is basically it. I think you have to leave the brushes in the shellac for like a couple of minutes, and I didn't have a couple of minutes because I was showing you guys. But that is basically it. So next week we're coming in with The Wicked, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And I hope that the live stream was really cool. So my application of the white mixture that you've seen, I did record that. I videoed it, and I'm going to do that as a regular video coming up, so you can see that during the week. So that would be cool for you all to see. So everyone, have a great night. Thanks so much. Thank you so much, Rick and Dred and Air Todd and John Diekman, Color Graphics, Roy, Michelle, great to see you. Bill, Squarebag, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate you. Dwayne, as always, thank you for your continued support and friendship. I really appreciate you, sir. JC, it was great to see you. Brad, Andre, muito obrigado. Wendy, Honey, Michael McClung, you guys are just fantastic. Who else did I not see? Patrick, great to see you, Patrick. Great to see Michael McClung. I think I mentioned him, so that was so cool. And Colette, of course. And let's see, Mr. Air Todd, of course, all the way from San Diego. And of course we have Patty from Illinois, and we have Pam from Virginia. A Shot of Inspiration, it was great to see you, and I hope to see everyone. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That really helps the channel, helps the algorithm. So next week we are coming with part 2, and we're just going to have a great time. If you have any questions, always feel free to contact me, and take care. So we did almost a full 2 hours, so that was great. And I hope everyone has a great week, and thank you so much for hanging out with me on this Wednesday.